hard thing though often when you're working with agencies, because when they're not living and breathing your business and your products, it's very hard to translate what they actually need to do, and sometimes it can get quite lost. You're not meant to just know everything, so don't feel like you just need to be able to answer all these questions.
Hey, thanks everyone for joining us for Online Offline. This is a bit of a rebirth for us. We started this probably about 2 or 3 years ago. Scott and I had an e-commerce agency, and we've since gone on to kind of do other things, but we really wanted to bring that back because it was an amazing series where we got to talk with the most interesting minds in Australian e-commerce who are doing amazing, incredible things, usually with niche brands who really got digital. They really got how to sell online. So in the past, we've had the founder of Bellroy, we've had the dirty minds behind Frank Body, there's been the founder of Adore Beauty who are dominating women's beauty online sales, and even e-commerce leaders from multinationals such as Bonds. So we've been really lucky to have a great crowd, great guests, and tonight is no different. Let's get to the guests. So Hunting for George are actually my favourite online store in Australia, and I've been fanboying them for years. Talking about how much I love their creative copy, the whole customer experience. So if anyone's actually shopped with Hunting for George before, bought some homewares off them, you would notice the quirky copy that goes through from the first moment you hit the website, the 3 emails you get if you've signed up, all the sales emails in the next year that you actually want to open, through to the order that arrives, complete with a kind of handwritten note and a nice little quirky card. They really get customer experience better than anyone else. So we're pretty happy to have Scott introduce them. Hand you over.
Thanks, Mike. I thought I was going to have to tackle you there for a second. Look, guys, thanks for coming. We'll get straight into it. Ladies, it's 2010. A nurse, a bike accessory designer walk into a bar, and out comes a business called George. How in the world did that happen?
All right. We were bored with our careers, basically, to put it quite bluntly, and wanted a project that we could work on together, get inspired and excited. We'd travelled a lot, and we'd looked at retail overseas, and especially in, I guess, Europe and America. It was quite vibrant, it was engaging and fun. And coming back to Australia, it was more traditional. So we thought, well, let's bring our personalities and energy into a retail space here. So we did look originally at going into a bricks and mortar store, but the idea didn't last for very long. It wasn't viable for us. Like, for a start, we needed to staff a shop, which wasn't going to happen because we were both working at the time. So we turned our attentions to online. But this was when we started getting really excited, because we were thinking about all of the things we wanted to bring to the customer experience in store. We thought, well, how can we adapt that into the online space? And that's kind of where it all kicked off.
So, Jo, you're the nurse. Lucy, you're the designer. Probably wasn't doing you any favours calling you a bike accessory designer, but you've had a long career in
packaging, not
graphic design. And how did you initially define who would do what, and then, you know, what does day one look like? We're going to build a site. Who's going to project manage that? Who built it?
Well, day one didn't look like much, really. It was just, I guess, Jo and I having a coffee. And the website, I designed our first website, and it was fixed height, this kind of cubed thing that you just had to scroll through. And it was very much inspired by, I guess, fashion boutiques at the time. And you could only really see 2.5 products like on the screen at any given time. It wasn't particularly practical, but we liked the idea of the exploration and finding things, and we didn't have a lot of products to sell at the time anyway.
Was it e-commerce from day one?
It was e-commerce from day one, and we got it all custom built from a coder in the city called eFront. They were doing, I just designed Nog's website. So they were the only web developers I knew, basically. I said, I've got a site I need you to design. And then it didn't take long. It was a very limited CMS, and I was like emailing them all the time. I want to change this image, and I want to change the copy, and I want to move this there. And I was kind of becoming that client. And my boyfriend actually at the time, he was messing around with websites. He's like, you've got to get onto an open source platform. And so that's when we moved across to Magento, and we're still on Magento to this day. We're on 1.9, and yeah, that's where we've stayed ever since. And that's when it became a lot
we had a lot more freedom to experiment, which was really good. And we've always done it in-house, actually, all of our design.
Okay, so you've got a website now. What do you
Yep.
put on the site? What do you stock it with that's not already out there, that's got your own quirk to it?
Yeah, well, we design a lot of our own products, but that didn't happen from the start. I guess early on we experimented, but we probably tried to do far too much. We were selling kind of fashion and gifts and homewares, and we were trying to be this one-stop shop, which wasn't really working. So the first couple of years were experimental for us. We did a lot of products that people hadn't seen before from overseas that we'd seen, because we'd spent a lot of time overseas. But it took us a while to get our products sorted. So it was in our third year that we really started to get into our own designs, and that's when everything started to gain momentum.
Did you base the site on a site you've seen in Europe or the States? I mean, fab.com, which, you know, was red hot and then flamed out, that would have been right around the time that they were rolling?
Yeah, it was mainly based around actually local sort of fashion, more like smaller business boutique sites. Yeah, I laugh when I think about it, but I guess it was quite sweet for the time, but it very much was a very not particularly practical website. But I mean, this was 2009 I would have made it, so a lot has changed since then.
So when did you give up your jobs? What did the first 6 months to a year look like?
I guess we plodded along doing this on the side for the first 1 or 2 years, I think. And it started gaining momentum, and, you know, had our first customer that wasn't related to any of us, which was awesome. But as it gained momentum, we thought, well, it's viable, like this can really work. But we were really stretched, we were working and other commitments. So we both...
I quit my job after a year.
Was it a year or two?
Yeah.
A year. So I took long service, Lou's quit a job, and we're like, all right, let's just do it full time, give it a bash and see how far we can take it. And that was when, once we could put that time and energy in, because at this point it was just still the two of us, with help from family and partners, and it started gaining that momentum, and that's where the growth kind of happened once we committed full time.
Were you at break even or thereabouts when jobs were quit?
No. We kind of got to that point where we just thought it's kind of now or never. It was one of those things where we had to give it a bit of a go. We actually went to our accountant and he's like, oh, is this like a hobby for you guys, or is this like a legit thing? And we're like, oh yeah, no, we want to do it. So that was actually a good kick up the arse for us to take it pretty seriously, because it was a passion project. So it kind of was, I guess, a hobby to start, and that's almost why it is so authentic in what we do, and I think that's why people like what we do, because it is our passion. So it sort of took us a while to take it seriously and take that next step.
So I read, doing some research on you guys, you both chipped in 10 grand each, so 20 grand was the seed capital. How far did that go? You've got a site.
Not very far.
Some stock.
We were still out of the home, so literally overheads were at a minimum. So
This is your house?
Yeah, this was my place. And so pretty much it went into stock and a site.
Yeah.
So look, you can...
And photo shoots.
And photo shoots, yeah, true, where we roped in mates, and still do that at the time now, to star in it. So from the beginning, we learned how to do things, you know...
From a budget.
Yeah, with a budget. Yeah, pretty much. But it was exciting, and we had to think outside the square a little bit to be able to put our ideas into play without the cash behind us.
So you guys are famous for the stuff that Mike opened with, the attention to detail, the great micro copy, all the little kind of touchy-feely things. The thing that I first discovered you guys for was when someone sent me your legendary Dudes Buying Guide. And you've got, for anyone that hasn't been on the site, they've got a section there which is a bunch of buying guides or campaigns, which it's really well targeted at guys, and clearly they're not your major target group, but you've got things like, you know, buying something for your mum, my friend's got a bun in the oven.
Yeah. I've got a girlfriend, I do want to kiss her, got a girlfriend, don't want to kiss her, that kind of stuff. What gifts do you buy? But we had a number of guys buying from us, and they would call us and they would literally give you a rundown of, this is my girlfriend and this is what she does, and I've got this much to spend. So we thought, well, let's make it a bit fun and interesting and put some questions out there. You select the question that most suits you, and we'll give you some suggestions to gifts. But it was all a bit, how can we offer a different experience rather than the same kind of boring just scrolling through to find something that you liked.
And we've always wanted to be inclusive and unisex, and we've always wanted guys to feel comfortable shopping with us. We don't think that homewares should be a feminine thing, and I think it is quite a feminine area. So it's an industry where we try and put our take on it. So it is attractive to both men and women.
So at that 1.5 to 2 year point, what are you selling? What products and what ranges are you selling?
We were selling homewares, so we were selling art prints. We were selling fashion accessories and some gifts and some bedding. And it was actually our first product that we ever put on the site from Hunting for George was just a poster that I'd designed for Jono, and it was for his birthday. We were watching a thing on YouTube for Burning Man, and it was just heaps of like trippers in like the desert saying, you know, the words to "Oh, the Places You'll Go" by Dr. Seuss, and I wasn't actually familiar with the Dr. Seuss novel at that point, only from this Burning Man advert, and I loved it. I thought it was really good. We both really loved it, so I typeset it up and I made a poster and I framed it and gave it to him, and he's like, "You should probably like think about selling it." And we didn't really want to sell it for a long time because we didn't have the confidence, I guess, in ourselves as product designers. But I guess eventually we were convinced. We put it up online, and that's when everything started to spiral, because we took our own photography. It was our own product. It was something new and really unique, and we sold out, and there were not a lot of products that we were selling out of at that point in time. So, you know, to have to reorder a product was a pretty big deal for us then, and that's when everything changed.
So loads of confidence come from one selling your own stuff. Any idea, I mean, I was on your site, you still sell that today, don't you?
Yep.
Any idea how many you've sold over the years?
Oh, I'd say thousands.
Question without notice, it's all right.
Yeah, I don't know, do you know, Jono? Thousands, it'd be thousands, yeah.
So Jono is Lucy's boyfriend, the man over here in the car key, for anyone that's not playing along at home. And we'll get to Jono in a second. There's bits for him in this as well. Okay, so you're famous for your copy, but you also, lots of homewares brands or lots of fashion brands for a long time, lots of fashion retailers, if they were selling someone else's product, they would use the photos that brand sent them. Now you clearly, it looks like you use some of those photos, but you shoot a whole lot of your own. You kind of indicated, but did you start doing that from the beginning? And obviously there's a cost and a lot of extra labour that goes into that. How did that whole thing start to percolate away?
Well, we did it from day one purely because my background is design and art direction, so it's all I know how to do is tell stories through imagery and copy. So it was just inherent to me to create a brand through the way that I knew how to do it. So from day one, it just happened. We dealt with friends that were photographers and friends that acted as models, that type of thing, and it's just always something that we've kept unique to us. We knew that we were fighting a bit of an uphill climb because we were entering an online space where no one knew who we were, so we knew that we always had to find our point of difference. So that's why we always focus on unique content creation.
And you've also extended that where you've made those collaborations, the artist and often the manufacturer. You'd feature imagery and shoots with them as part of the shoot, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But also there's videos, there's a whole series of Vimeo videos that introduce who that artist or that manufacturer is.
Yeah.
How much do you think people buy into the story as much as the product?
Yeah, well, a lot.
Yeah, look, I think especially in this day and age, there's a lot of products that you can buy, cheap and cheerful, no background. And I think more people are becoming refreshed by hearing a story of people doing like good things behind the scene. So what have they come from? What are they making? Why have they come to make it? Like, people are really embracing the story. And ever since we started, we wanted to tell stories about our brands. It was not just buying products to resellers with Hunting for George branding. It was about promoting. And I think a lot of people are loving the story, which has been part of why the Meet the Makers, especially for us, have been so successful.
So in those first couple of years, when do you move out of the spare room in your house? Are you drop shipping? Are you putting things in satchels and boxes yourselves? How's it all playing out?
We've never drop shipped. So from the get-go, we said we would support our brands and purchase stock, and we would send it out. And it was all part of the Hunting for George experience with someone getting a product in the mail from us. So moved out of home. When we were at home, we were lugging all of the boxes up to the local post office ourselves. I was working at the Alfred Hospital at the time. Everyone got a fancy Alfred Hospital post office stamp on the front of it, which I'm sure looked really classy.
Nice touch.
Yeah, nice touch. But then once we started doing some volumes, we moved out of the space, moved out of home into a space, which was fantastic, and started getting those regular pickups, which was just... It was fantastic for us. Yeah, it was a bit of a game changer. The volume, and our efficiencies.
Your postie's called George. It's meant to be. All right. So one of the other things that I didn't realise about you guys until we met and had coffee was that both of your partners have worked in the business. How do you work with people that you are sleeping with, and not have those tense dinner party or lunchtime kind of conversations that lure home, or the tense Christmas lunch?
Mine tapped out like years ago. He's like, I'm done.
But he's still your husband?
He's still married to me, so he has to, he's there for moral support. And do you know what? He's also in business, completely different, and it's business is business, no matter which industry you're in. So it's lovely to be able to bounce ideas off him. He's from a very different mindset. He's an engineer by trade, so his brain operates quite differently to mine. So it's great for that feedback. Lucy, however, can answer her part of the question.
Well, Jono's our marketing manager, and I guess we started dating just after we started hunting for George, so he's kind of been there from the get-go, and he's always been lending advice.
Was he in a non-paid role in the early days?
He was very much in a non-paid role for a very long time. So we were like, okay, we should probably make this official and give you a salary. Look, it is really tough. If anyone's out there that has a similar situation, they'll know it's really tough. I'm not an expert on it whatsoever. The only thing that we do try and do is to try not to talk about work when you get home, although when you work together then you kind of got nothing to talk about when you get home. So as long as we don't talk about negative things when we get home, if we keep it positive and keep it light, that's kind of our rule. Doesn't always work, but we try.
And so when did Jono go from unpaid to paid to coming on board full-time?
Oh God, when was it? You've been full-time for a couple of years? Yeah, I guess you were part-time for a little while, but full-time maybe now for 2 years, I'd say.
And did you guys sit down and have the talk about, okay, this is what it's going to be like at work, and
we
I'm the boss?
We probably should have done. Yeah, I do like to say I'm the boss a lot. That causes tension. But no, I guess we didn't have the talk. We probably should have. But look, Jono's amazing, and we brought Jono on because, he has an incredible marketing brain, and he has really done a lot to drive the success of Hunting for George, because Jo is fantastic with people and service. I'm great with brand, and Jono was there to basically hype us up and make sure everybody knew about us.
So on that topic of define roles, when you first got rolling, did you clearly go, this is my side of the ledger, this is mine, or did that naturally evolve?
It didn't between Jo and myself, because we're sisters, so we kind of just inherently know how each other will work. So we never really clearly defined it, and it actually became a bit of an issue when we got employees for the first time, because you're obviously giving them pretty clear KPIs and roles and who they're reporting to, and when we didn't actually have any structure within ourselves or within the business, it did actually cause quite a few problems. But we were pretty quick to resolve it. I mean, we knew it was happening, and it just came down to a lack of communication. And as soon as we could divide what area was one another's responsibilities, everything then just began to move a lot more freely.
Can you give people an idea of kind of the size of the business now? So, how many units would you ship a week?
Look, we can do anywhere from like 20 up to 300 in a day. So it varies. So as a small business, we have to be quite responsive, being able to deal with the busy times as well. So we've learnt a lot about how to manage volumes on not a great deal of people on the ground. So that's certainly been a
How seasonal are you?
Do you know what? Homewares, it is. I think there are homewares. There are seasons involved. But it's not just seasons. I guess with homewares, it's mixed up for a variety of reasons. So you might marry, you might move into, move house, buy house, move in with your boyfriend, girlfriend, you might celebrate a promotion, have money to spend on a rug you've been dreaming about for ages. So I think, yes, there's seasons in times where we go internal and want to homey up our house as such. And then, during summer, windows are open, we entertain more, you're thinking more about maybe new art for the wall or indoor plants. So there is fun and movement in homewares. And I think when we went into it, there wasn't. It was a little bit...
We've begun to move more on a fashion kind of schedule, on a more traditional retail calendar, I guess. Which it's not to say that you buy a quilt set and it's going to be, dodgy and you have to throw it out in 6 months. It's going to last you a long time, but you might want to freshen up with something else. But we do start to form a more seasonal calendar and collections.
Do you, like lots of businesses, once you become successful enough, all the people come to you with products they want you to stock. Do you still take buying trips to Hong Kong and Shenzhen and in Europe? How do you source products?
Never taken a trip to Europe for buying. I'd love to. Not in the budget. To be honest with you, we found a lot of our internationals through Instagram. That's a lot easier and a lot more affordable to find people than having to fly there. But we do travel a bit. We travel a lot to our factories that we make a lot of our products. John and I just got back from China. We get a lot of... Well, Jo managed... You should talk about this. You manage a lot of brands.
Obviously, they come from all over too. And
Get a lot of emails.
Yeah, we do get contact.
So what is Hunting for George brands and what percentage would be other brands that you stock in terms of sales? Is it 50-50?
It's pretty much 50-50 now. Yeah, it's growing quite significantly.
And we love both as well. Like we get excited with our own brands, and that's given us a chance to become creative and find little gaps in the market where we were missing products. But we truly love, the brands we represent and...
We got a delivery today.
Pardon?
Well, we got a delivery today and everyone comes out to have a look at what, what's there, and it's an exciting thing for us. That's why we don't drop ship as well, because we just really love the products that we're dealing with.
So on that front, you have a warehouse or a warehouse cum showroom in Cremorne, the old-fashioned district of Melbourne. Many people, apart from when you run sales or pop-ups, how many people come in to wanting to touch and feel?
We were surprised because when we had an address on the website or through Google, you could find us, people were ringing the doorbell a lot. And they were expecting Instagram, and they didn't get Instagram at that point. So you could see their faces like shatter. So we thought, well, if we're getting that traffic through doing nothing, we tried a pop-up shop, which worked really well. And now we have a shop that's open 2 days a week. It's very much a destination area. It is in the back streets up behind the Corner Hotel, which most people would know, but not for shopping. But it's been great, and a lot of people have come in if they're buying maybe a larger price item such as a rug or a bed. They want to come in and look and talk to us if they can. So it's been a really valuable experience, actually. We've enjoyed it.
So logistics, how do you ship? It's pretty easy shipping some sheets, a bed. How have you figured out how to ship big and small? Do you have distinctive areas where you are no-go zones for big items?
Yeah, look, shipping, we struggle international. We haven't been able to actively market ourselves internationally at the moment because we're still struggling with larger courier companies to come to the party and offer some, we're not doing the volumes that the larger businesses are doing.
Catch-22, isn't it?
Yeah, but we'd love to do the volumes if you can give us some rates to get to the volumes. So international's a struggle. Furniture, we've got some great carriers that we would use, but the most of ours would, is fine to be sending Australia Post, which is where we send most of ours with.
So logistics is obviously one. What other growing pains have you had? Growing pains / war stories. Happy to get some scar tissue out here.
Staffing's been an interesting learning curve because obviously when we started it was just the two of us. And then how to hire the right staff that are the right fit. personality-wise within your team, have the skill set you want, but also have someone who's going to have that ability to share those skills that they've got within a team through good communication and work well with others. So, and how to let go, sadly, as well. So when it works and when it doesn't. So staffing has been a learning curve.
Does everyone get their hands dirty?
Yeah. Everyone will... We're a small team. There's 7 of us.
So you expect even someone that's doing a laptop or a desktop role to still get their hands dirty and be a little bit of a generalist at times?
Look, we try not to. Like, when you're a small business, yes, there are times when everyone does down tools and come and help. But we've learned that doesn't work that well. When you've got someone there for their marketing skills, to pull them to go and do something else in the warehouse is probably not going to work as well for you when you need them to do a job that they're paid to do. So look, we don't do it very often, but yes, if there's a time where we need everyone to chip in, most people will just jump up and come and help.
Yeah. That's nice. We don't really have to ask people. Our staff are just, they know what's going on. We're a small business and they'll kind of just help if they can see that people...
If we need it. We're lucky to have a small team, but they're a small team of really hardworking...
How many do you have?
7. So there's 5 full-time and then 2 others who come in casual and contract-based. But we're just bloody lucky, to be honest. We've got an awesome team, which is why we can pull off what we can with the numbers that we've got.
So your business looks beautiful from the outside because it's all breezy photography. What's the biggest stuff up you've made?
Biggest stuff up? What's that biggest stuff up? I think early on we probably bought too much of the wrong shit. We just, we didn't understand our customer enough. That was probably our biggest stuff up. We've learned to be smarter since then. Yeah, we've just been smarter. I think ultimately what we've learned, because we're not from a business background, Jo and I literally knew nothing about running a business. We'd never studied business, finance, commerce. We had no idea kind of where we were going from the beginning. So we've learned a lot that way, and how we've fixed that is to make sure we surround ourselves with people that know the things that we don't know and can help us to grow more. But I think there's heaps of stuff ups in business, to be honest. As long as you react quickly, fix them and learn from them, move on, then...
You, so in terms of the growth that you've gone through, and I'm sure we'll have some questions after the break, what do you think, what's the plans for Hunting for George? What's it look like in 2 years' time?
We've got a lot of ideas. The thing with us, we do always want to do a great deal more than we can actually achieve within our team. But we want to start a new brand. We want to look at going into physical spaces, into pop-ups. We want to look at having more of a presence overseas. And we were quoting Andy Forshaw when he said, just throw all the rocks down the hill and see which one rolls the fastest. That's kind of how we do it. We just start everything and just figure out which one sort of sticks, really.
So Andy, for those that don't know, started and runs Bellroy, which are a fantastic Melbourne wallet company, and we've interviewed. They were the very first one in this series we did, which is a great story. Go back and have a look at it. There's some pretty shitty video, but there's some decent audio of that online. You mentioned pop-ups. You said physical stores and you said pop-ups. Yeah. Are you looking to do that destination store? And if you did, where do you think that might be without giving away company secrets?
Yeah, we're looking into a couple of options. We're looking at different spaces, high traffic areas versus more of your local high streets. We're trying to figure out...
Would it be in Melbourne?
It would be in Melbourne, I think, purely just for the ease of being able to start up a physical space. It's interesting that we've kind of done a bit of a 360 and we went from bricks and mortar, couldn't do that, into online, and that was our challenge. Now our challenge is how do we express our online experience into a physical one, which is actually a really interesting problem to have. So that's what we're looking at now.
So, going into another country and opening up in some form is easier than it once was because, Instagram and Pinterest and Facebook are all global. If you were going to open... when you open, how do you think you'd go about opening another country? Would it be online with stock in that country?
Which country?
And how? A little bit of the whole Would you ship out of Australia initially?
There are so many logistical nightmares with us doing it overseas, to be honest with you. We've got such a huge product range. We would probably need to really decide what products we were going to be representing, and they probably would just be hunting for George branded products. And we probably would set up a DC centre. I think that would be the safest bet. I think anyone trying to ship anything out of Australia is probably going to struggle. So yeah, we'd look at doing a local DC centre wherever we were setting up.
Would that look like America, Asia, or Europe, you think, first?
Probably America. Go a bit of LA. I could see myself living in LA.
It looks like we have a question in the corner. Dennis.
You know my question, Scott.
Ask the question, please, kind sir.
Traffic. Where does the traffic come from?
Where does your traffic come from?
A lot of different sources. We work very hard. Well, Jono works very hard with SEO, and we also have strong traffic through our social sites, also through our EDMs. EDMs are probably one of the main ones. And then press, and just trying to, and from our blog as well. We're basically content machines, as Jono likes to call us. The more content we can create, the better, and that's what's really sort of driving it, making sure that we're re-engaging with our existing customer base to get them visiting back as well. Yep.
Do you find any of those traffic sources convert better than others? Is SEO better? Is Instagram better?
Sometimes it's hard to work out how much Instagram is attributing to sales, but we can definitely tell. I don't know, Jono, what do you think would be the best kind of...
You can report on everything, so everything's trackable in the online world. Organic converts the best. When you pay for targeted advertising, as long as it's doing the right thing, it converts good or well. Social does more than just convert traffic, and it builds our brand as well. So yeah, there's different reasons for doing different, or focusing on different channels, but they all contribute to the same goal. Exactly, yeah.
So the question is, how do you go about planning your content marketing strategy?
It's a really good question. I've never really been asked that question before. It's a really interesting position to be in when you're a creative and you've often worked for other brands and you've been led by someone else to all of a sudden have your own brand and you're kind of the master of your own destiny and you're like, what am I going to do? So there is a lot of freedom. We definitely try and structure, but I wouldn't say we kind of have a really set 12-month... we have a plan, but we very much are agile, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. We have a lot of things that we want to do, but nothing's set in stone with us, and we are still quite reactive. But we do definitely work to seasons. So in terms of our own products, we make sure that we structure and we have our timings for when we need to launch certain products. And for us, the biggest thing is when recognising when the down times are, when those low months are with sales, and how we can generate more traffic to the site and more sales. And often that's when we tell our best stories, is because we're in a low time, and we can actually spend time working on great projects as well. So I guess to answer your question, we do plan, but we're also quite...
some planning, some ad hoc.
Yeah, which I think is nice as well. And I think now with social as well, you kind of need to, and just generally in being online, you kind of need to move pretty fast anyway. So you've got to be reactive. Yeah.
The question is, how do you both get your name out there organically and also organise a marketing strategy? How long have you been rolling for?
It's a month, I'm only kind of a month. So
Okay, so early. What's a startup strategy you'd think would work?
Say yes to everything. Pretty much, we just said yes to absolutely every single opportunity that came our way. We were laughing the other day because we forgot that we were doing like markets, like we were going to primary schools and like setting up stalls and stuff like that. Like we were literally doing anything we could to just get more customers and get more people that knew about us. So as well as just, it's not just about online, it's just about however you can get in people's faces, and you have to get really scrappy, basically.
And it's building your networks as well. Networking is incredibly important. It is putting yourself out there to meet people doing great things and pick their brains and watch brands that you admire and see, let them kind of inspire you as well. But networking for sure is certainly a good way to learn.
And I guess when it comes to spending money on online advertising, if it's not your expertise, just talk to a lot of people and find out more information. It definitely wasn't my expertise. So you're not meant to just know everything, so don't feel like you just need to be able to answer all these questions. Just talk and get advice from people before you spend lots of money. Just test, just sort of trial it as you go and see what works and see what doesn't work. And
the money question, have you been contacted by any kind of private equity to fund or buy or in some way give you some dollars?
No. Open to offers? No, we've never had the opportunity, and it hasn't been something we've focused on. But as Lou said before, look, we're just open to opportunities that come our way. Look, we'd be intrigued if anyone was interested to work with. So.
Does anyone on that front? Anyone here came to the Kate Morris Adore Beauty? One of these, which was a couple of years ago at Honey Bar. So Kate, when we shot that, was in the midst of selling half her business or getting half her business bought by Woolworths. So that was percolating at the time. We didn't talk about it on the night. It happened a few months later. Fast forward 18 months later, she's gone and bought the back. So that's a really interesting story of, she said they were great to deal with. They weren't quite the fit that she thought they were going to be, and they were going to offer some distribution and potentially some expansion. Then the 3 people that she was dealing with on the Woolworths side all left the business, and she was like, that was probably the final straw in terms of it's probably not the fit we thought, and she went and bought it back. So money's one of those interesting things that does allow you to do lots more things, but obviously you then come with a master of sorts, and the fit might not be the way that it plays out at the deal table. Have you ever mortgaged the farm?
Yeah, like that's probably like the toughest thing about business is you just always need money. And we have been quite bootstrapped. We've literally self-funded ourselves for quite a number of years. We are reaching the point now where we are talking to people about coming into the business. It's kind of a scary thing because it's always been ours. So as soon as you open those doors, people are putting your business under a bit of a microscope. So you kind of really have to be ready for it. And the only advice I could give was just make sure you speak to as many people as possible. Kate, as you mentioned before, she's one of our mentors as well. We always catch up with her and just have coffee, and just finding people that you can talk to, and just there are so many people in the industry that have done it before, and it's so good to just say, do you know what, can I have a coffee? I'll take you out for coffee. So many people are open to doing that, and that's what we've actually done to, I guess most recently, is to make sure we surround ourselves with mentors that can kind of guide us through that process better.
Kate's great. And if you haven't watched that episode of this series, go back and watch it. She was selling online in 99. She's got some great war stories, and she just talks about how, Shopify might sell e-commerce as, bang up a theme. You have a site, put a product up, it'll be pretty easy. E-commerce is really hard, and she tells just every kind of war story that you wouldn't think a business that's selling $40 million online would still be going through. Steve Sammartino.
My goodness, your reputation precedes you.
Or Sam Martino, as he's mostly known.
I'm wondering about the margins of what you sell. Have you learned something about you don't touch things that are under a certain margin, or do you go with the consumer satisfaction of knowing that they can get certain things from you, and you've got an 80-20 Pareto kind of law of these are where I get the profit on this 20% and these are service lines?
Yeah.
Is there something you've learned in that realm?
So the question is around margins. How do you define what margin is acceptable, and how do you work out your reckoner on that?
We obviously have golden rules about where we want to hit, and that's why obviously creating our own products, we've got a lot more margin that we can deal with. However, in saying that, when you're dealing with, for example, we do Australian-made furniture, and if we want to sell that at a particular price point, we have to take a hit as well. So there are certain products where we may not be as savvy and as ruthless business owners, but for us, if we love a product and we really love the design and we want to get it out there, we're willing to kind of sacrifice a little bit of that. So it's a balance. It's a balance,
of
yeah.
our products. Like, we have a balance of our own products we produce and our brands as well. So we've got less room to move when we're selling another brand with their recommended retail pricing, but we can have some room to move on ours, which one works for the other, doesn't it really?
Do you think as you grow it'll be less art, more science? Will you have to become a little bit more, it has to fit
I don't know.
some certain numbers?
I think data is incredibly important, and I think I hope not. I hope they never overtake one another. I hope there's a really nice balance. I think it's really important to look at your numbers and to look at the data in front of you, but if you lose the soul of your business and lose why you started it in the first place, then that's kind of a really sad point, and we never really want to get to that. So we kind of just have to remember why we started it, the fact that this was meant to be a passion project for us, and we loved people and we loved products, so that's what we've got to remember as well. But it's still going to make money.
7 staff now, you're growing at a good clip. Now you're needing more specialised people. Where are you? What will be maybe those next couple of roles you think you'll need?
Well, when we first started, it was literally what could we outsource the jobs that we didn't want to do, which for us was no-brainer bookwork. We weren't great at it and were really slow at it. So the easy jobs to outsource in the beginning for us, but we've never been shy with saying we're great at certain things, but we know very little about others, and therefore we've pulled people into the business as we've needed it. So marketing, customer service, warehouse roles.
Web development's always like really tricky. So we use an external service coder. I would love to bring someone in. If I had a developer in our studio, the stuff I would make them do. It's just, that would be my first, but I can't afford them because they're really expensive. Is anyone a web developer?
So on that front, Jono built the first website.
Yeah.
It sounds like you didn't pay him very much. Can you
Paid him in love.
Lots of people will have an idea that websites are either relatively cheap because of the Shopify dream, or it's you spend 20 grand and that's it. Can you give us a little bit of an idea around kind of the ongoing costs and how much development and changes you're making daily, weekly, monthly?
We spent quite a lot up front when we went this fully customised site, and we pretty much scrapped that within 12 months. We didn't pay...
Ballpark kind of dollars?
I'm going to say like 10K. I actually can't remember, to be honest with you, but it was a fair chunk of our capital that we had to start with. Magento starting up didn't cost us anything. It was just Jono and I working really late and just like red-eyed and just doing it all ourselves. And to be honest with you, we've kept that mentality going for a very long time. In a way, it's kind of shit if you can do something yourself, because then it's very hard to bring, like, you know, it's easier if you have no idea what you're doing, you just pay someone else. But if you can do it yourself, then you're kind of like, well, I can do it myself, so I'm going to just work till 2 as long as it gets done, that type of thing. Now, I guess, with this coder, he works on it every single day, and yeah, we're just outlaying. We pay him monthly. But still, it's pretty much on the cheap, actually, because we do a lot of it in-house, and yeah.
Coders are like babysitters. No one wants to give them up, ever. Gus. I'll be SBS and translate what Gus is probably about to say.
Come on.
So, quick question. So, I'm assuming that one of you two defined the voice of the brand. Is that right? And then, as you scale, is there anybody else allowed to kind of write that copy as well? And because I struggle with, you know, every brand that I've ever advised, who help to try to define myself, I struggle to really find those copywriters that write. You can imagine that voice and you go, can you write like exactly
Yeah.
the time, or you try to write but you can't quite define it.
Yeah.
Guys,
Yeah.
So the question is, who defined the voice of the brand? No, I'm not taking the piss. I was going to say something about boys in copy, but I didn't. How do you define the voice of the brand? Who did that? And then ongoing, how do you let go of your baby and let someone else do that?
I started doing the copy, and it was just, I guess, a bit of my very confident alter ego was the personality. But we decided from the get-go what we wanted to instill in our copy. We wanted to make sure it was really authentic. We wanted to make sure it was welcoming and inclusive, and we just wanted to make sure it was fun. So they're kind of the sort of 3 pillars that we always wanted to focus on. But I never really, when you're doing it yourself, you don't ever put it down. Like, you don't ever have your own brand guidelines if it's just inherent in what you're doing, so you're just writing it. And so I probably did that for a very long time, and then I guess in our 4th year when we had a staff member, Bonnie, come on board. She started writing, and it's a hard thing to teach someone, but as soon as someone gets it, I'm like, you can do it. You know, and she evolved it, and she brought her own spin on it. And I think as long as you can kind of say, these are kind of the core things that you need to stick to, then if you've got someone with that skill, they can just take it wherever they want to. But it's a difficult thing to teach someone to write in a certain way. I think you either have it or you don't. You write a certain way or you don't. So, the copy has been a bit of an evolution, and there's more areas of copy on the website where I'd love to improve it, but it's, there we go, Mike. I'd love to get a copywriter on board. That would be a bit of a fantasy. That would be my next one.
The question is, do you do SEO internally or do you outsource it?
We're trying... We're working with an agency at the moment. We do a lot internally. To be honest, we've always done it internally. And when I say we, I'm talking about Jono. We've done it always internally, and we've tried with an agency. It's a really hard thing, though, often when you're working with agencies, because when they're not living and breathing your business and your products, it's very hard to translate what they actually need to do, and sometimes it can get quite lost. And I think that's our challenge at the moment, is to say, we really need to focus on driving sales on this product, or and copywriting's a big part of SEO as well. And when you can see copy not representing your brand well enough, that's a bit of a challenge as well. So I wouldn't say we've experimented a lot, and there's a lot more that we could do. But there are a lot of challenges with using other services.
Content marketing and SEO really have blended into one, haven't they? They really are becoming similar. How have your roles changed and evolved over the 7-year period, and how have you adapted to what the business is today?
They've evolved into more a management role, which is awesome. We're still doing a lot of things in the business, but as we've brought fantastic team members on board, we've been able to hand over a portion of what we were doing to someone who had the skills to run with it. And that has been exciting to see our roles, and refreshing to see our roles change from being the doers down in the trenches every day, just the 2 of us, to head above water for a moment, and where you can actually start planning and thinking about what's around the corner, and more of a management role, which is awesome.
And also just team culture.
We've really enjoyed building a culture within our team that we've been, I guess, really we've felt quite firm about having an awesome environment to work in. So I think making sure when people come on board, they know who we're about, what we want within the business, and what they're signing up for, I guess, when they come on board. We were chatting in the break, Mike mentioned about kind of, I guess, professional development. Have you gone and done any training or done some courses or had a coach around how to be a manager? Or is it something that came from your nursing? We did a small business course when we first started, which was a smidge of a joke, but it was a short course at night. You know, we haven't... not the courses as such, but we do network quite heavily. We attend every chance we get to attend a conference, an opportunity to meet people in the industry and to learn from others doing amazing things. That is our opportunity to go in, listen and learn, but nothing formal as such.
We had a business coach for a bit.
Oh, actually, no. Oh, true. We did have a business coach for a bit, which was at the time Lucy spoke about before, saying we really needed to to define, and formalise structure within our company, define our roles. So at that point, we did use a business coach for about 6 months, and that really did help us get through a patch of we were growing at a point with our team. We were still very drained. We were tired, and it was a really good time for us to go and start communicating and kind of putting down into place roles of what we were doing, where we were heading, and that was really valuable, really.
So the question is, the guy very bravely said he'd never been to the site, so kudos to you, potential customer out there. What comes next? And Community, your magazine that's on the tables, can you tell us a little bit about what that is and where that's come from, what that does for you?
Yeah, I guess, well, quickly what comes next, like I said before, we've got so many things in the pipeline, so we are starting our own brand, and the art print store is something we're working on at the moment. We've got a lot of different things in the pipeline, but the Community Journal, that's our 3rd edition Community Journal. If you haven't grabbed one, do pick it up. That is my little baby, because print will never die, even though we are an online shop. I love print. I think print is incredible, and it's just a really nice way to tell stories and to hold a moment of time with your customer. We spend so much time and energy into creating these images and campaigns, and they can be gone in the fastest of flashes on Instagram with that double tap and move on, and no one really cares about it anymore. So I really like to make sure that they kind of live on. And I think the amazing thing about print, so this goes out in all of our orders, so all of our customers get them, and also we distribute them around sort of local areas. But you know, when you have a moment with your customer, they get to hold it, and they get to keep it on their coffee table, or maybe talk to their friends about it, or even give it to someone. And the great thing that's happened with that journal is that people are actually now taking photos of it and putting it on Instagram. So it's kind of just done a complete circle, and this, you know, physical print has actually ended up back online, which I think is really nice. And I went to a conference the other week, and they were like, print's dead, catalogues are dead. I'm like, no, it's not. It really isn't. I think if you're doing something unique and you're doing something really beautiful, I think there's always going to be an audience that appreciates that. So that's why we do our journal.
Good question. So Kate's asked, do their homes look like the Instagram feed?
Johnny, he's like, real living, and this want to do a feature on our house, so we need to like quickly do something. No, look, I think they're both, Jo and I are very real, and they're not like, I think if you look at our campaign images, they're not polished and perfect, and because we're not polished or perfect, and we don't believe that homes should ever be represented the way that they sometimes are in magazines. So they're very much a reflection of who we are, but they're probably not as beautiful as our campaign pictures. Jo's got 2 kids. I mean,
and I can't stand when you see these homes in magazines with kids running around on white couches and stuff. I'm like, they're just, no, like it doesn't work for me at all. So no, we're a bit more real than that.
So on that front, your husband's got a business, you've got a business. How did between the two of you balance children? How does all that work?
Still working that out a little bit. Oh, look, kids...
How old are your kids?
Kids are a mix. They're 8 and 6. Look, kids, it's another responsibility. And look, a business is a baby, and then if you've got another couple at home that you've kind of are responsible for and do need feeding at certain times of the day and whatever, it does add to the responsibilities. But I think regardless of if you've got kids or not, I think the work-home dynamic is an important thing to work on in business. And I think, as Luce said before, you can tend to just keep on working so hard and long hours because you can, you're trying to grow your business, you're doing everything you can. And to actually take a step back and have a bit of a, enjoy something that's going on in your life and have a bit of a break from it is incredibly important. So kids or not, I think work-life balance has been something that we've recently realised that it's been incredibly important for us to do, so we're not at risk of burnout, to be honest, because then it's no good to the business either.
Mike.
Oh, she's like gramming.
We're the organisers. We're supposed to have questions. This is what comes with the territory.
Well, I'm interested, how much, you're very creative people and you're in a creative business, how much attention do you pay to data?
The question from Mike, thank you, is how much attention do you pay with data? So it's the art versus science question again.
A lot now. We look at data every day. There's a lot that when you start, you've got nothing to work with. So we didn't really have any data to kind of go for. We were kind of punching in the dark a little bit. But now, we track everything. We look at it. We all look at it from different points of view. Jono looks at it from a marketing point of view and traffic and revenue. And we look at it from revenue, but also particular brands and products. So we rely on it a lot. And we're getting a lot smarter, and that has come over time because we realise it is a science actually, and it's a nice combination of both. I think, you know, business is not just all about the art of the science of it. You know, there has to be some give and take with the creativity, but there definitely is formulas that you can kind of work to, and we have focused on doing that. Yeah. We love data. Gosh, that could be a T-shirt. Beautiful.
Wouldn't have pictured you as the data type, but hey, there you go. In terms of hours worked, to give everyone an idea of, you know, there is lots of people thought that the dream of running your own business is that you get to define your own hours, and the reality is often that those hours just happen to be longer. And do you have set breaks? Are you come back from your holiday, book your next holiday? Do you do, I don't touch, I look at a screen on a Sunday? What kind of rules do you have around that?
I think Jo's probably better because she has a family, and I think that does force you to have better work-life balance. And so Jo, I think you are pretty good at it. Me, not so much, maybe.
Both of us actually have different work habits as well. You've always been a person that works well at night. I'm always an early morning one. So we've kind of been able to work within our strengths. Yes, I've got commitments, so I can't do the normal 9 to 5 that I kind of used to. So, but it's a balance, and you can manage to pull the hours from somewhere if you're missing them on one day. So look, you do have flexibility in your own business, which is awesome, but you just need to make sure that whilst you can do as many hours as you want, that you're smart with when you choose to do those hours. It's of no benefit to anyone if you're doing them at a time that you're exhausted, you're making mistakes.
And I think it's a common misconception that starting an online business is going to be easy, and you do get a lot of people going, oh, I've just had a baby, so I'll start an online business, and I'm thinking, oh, that's going to suck. So it does take a lot of your time, purely just because you're online and you're not actually talking to customers day to day. The first year we were like, this is rad, because we had nothing to do pretty much, you know. It was very slow, but as soon as it started to pick up, we were working just all the time, and we did get pretty drained, and we do have moments where we need to go, right, we need to step away and have a breather.
You do just about everything in-house. Does all of your team work in the Cremorne office? Have you got some remote? Have you tried remote?
Well, I guess we've got a developer who is remote. He works from home, and he's an external source. We do use a lot of photographers and that type of thing that are technically not part of the team working in-house.
The dev, are they Melbourne-based? Do they come in and work a day a month in the office? Is there some touch?
They just come to our Christmas party and get pissed. That's about it.
Everyone else is in with us.
Yep.
Do you have good piss-ups at the office?
Oh, yeah. Pretty good.
Question is around pop-ups. When did you decide what worked and what didn't?
In a way, we kind of started doing pop-ups, like I was saying before, about being a startup and needing to get ourselves out there. We started the pop-up in our space purely because people were knocking on our door and there wasn't anything to see. We sell a very different product, so that's how we found often when people come in and sometimes they just want to experience your brand, but they're not necessarily going to walk out with a quilt set or a rug or something. So you're going to be selling lower priced items, and you're going to be selling gifty type things, because sometimes people just really want to take something away with them, and so you need to be offering those lower priced items. So we do know what works better in the shop. However, in saying that, there's a lot we don't know yet, which is quite exciting about going into a more established, a bigger kind of pop-up space. And we are interested in seeing how that rolls out. I think there's some great pop-ups. We've talked about bonobos and things where, you're not necessarily leaving the shop with anything, but you've placed an order and it'll be sent to your home. That kind of thing is really exciting and something that we'd like to experiment with. Yeah.
Do you think that reverse trend of it's the reverse of click and collect? It's go in and have it shipped. Do you think that's going to be something that's a good fit for you guys?
I think so, yeah. I think purely also because we have such an extensive product range, it's very, just logistically, it's very hard to fit all of that in one space. And so that's going to be our challenge is what we promote and how do we want people to purchase. And it's really interesting. I think that space is changing. I think consumers are changing now, and I think consumers demand a lot more and they want more from their retail experience, and I think it's the smart retailers that are actually making that in-store experience really unique and exciting.
What's your strategy around sales, discounting and moving excess stock? How do you go about that?
You want to go? Do you want me? You got the mic.
No one wants the mic. It's the first time this evening.
Look, we have to shift stock at certain times of the year, like any other business, to be honest. So we never started out thinking we were going to be a discounter. It was something we tread carefully with. We don't want to ever get in the habit of having constant sales. It's not something we ever wanted for our brand. But we are a business. We do hold stock. And we follow our retail calendar, and we do have events like a lot of other retailers.
So I investigated you and found that you had an eBay store that was branded but didn't have anything on it. Is that something you ever use?
Jono? Oh, man. Oh, eBay. They sold eBay to us like this amazing thing, and we'd make so much money, and it just didn't work for us. It really didn't work. They kind of sold us the world and we got nothing. The integration was quite difficult, quite intensive. And then when I think eBay, essentially its price and its product offering, and we just couldn't compete on those levels. So for us, it was a different customer, and it just wasn't cutting through. So we've pulled that back basically. It is, but like I said before, you've got to give everything a go. Like, we could have gone on there and smashed it, but it just wasn't kind of the right fit. And I think it needs someone working on it all the time. It's essentially like starting another business. eBay is totally different.
It is a different world, isn't it?
It's a totally different world, and you need to have a lot more content specific to eBay and exactly what they want to know a lot more. It's kind of a very intensive customer,
Talking to Nathan Huppatz, who's costumes.com.au, we've also interviewed. He's spun two businesses out of eBay, and it is a different world. It is a different customer. It is a marketplace that some people only shop in eBay, the same way that some people only shop in Etsy. Part of the reason I asked that question is, we talked about Andy Farrishaw at Bellroy. He's been the strictest I know of any brand around discounting, and they do some sales, but they're so discreet with it because he doesn't want to be seen as one of those brands where you train your customers to wait for a sale.
Yeah.
What do you do with your community? Do you actually do anything physical with them? Do you hear them? Do you invite them to come to see you? Do you?
Yeah, we have our hunting collective, which we collaborate with artists. The last one we did was with 12 different artists around Australia. Jono and I travelled with a photographer and we visited them all. We did still photography. We did interviews with all of them, and basically that was about documenting their creative process, because that's something I find really fascinating. It was pretty much a little personal project of mine that I really wanted to do for Hunting for George. We also have a lot of events. Any opportunity, to be honest, that we can have an event and bring something into a physical space and actually talk to people, we love. 100%. We often have launch parties. We've got an artist exhibition coming up, which we'll have in our space. That's exciting to us because we are online, but we always want to make sure we're engaging with our customer. So we engage with them online, but it's very important to be able to engage with them in person as well. Every week's probably pushing it, but the shop's always open.
Every week.
Yeah.
And you know what? through social media channels as well. Like we talk to our community through all of our channels on social media, and we listen back. Like we want to hear. We start conversations. So we're able to talk to them, even though it might not be, there. We sell all over the country, but we start conversations through all of the channels. We want to hear what people are thinking. We've moulded our business based on what our consumers have wanted. So if they're giving us feedback and taking the time to give us feedback, God, we'll listen and we'll do what we can to take it on board and see if it's something we can work with to improve our service as well.
Lucy, the Hunting Collective, is it the clocks?
Yep.
Is that what I saw?
Yep.
Can you tell people a little bit more about what the artists did and what you do with those and how that plays out?
Well, the second product we started making was clocks, and they were timber clocks that were handmade in Jo's shed. And thank God we're not doing that anymore, but we actually work with a company called Waverley Industries. They provide employment to people with disabilities, and so they now make these beautiful clocks of ours, and they make them a lot better than we ever used to as well. But it's an incredible timber base for a clock, and we thought it was a great opportunity to collaborate with artists and get them to basically do whatever they wanted to these beautiful clocks. And the reason, like I mentioned before, is just talking about some of the artists that we sell, because a lot of them we do sell some of their other products, so it was featuring them, but it was also looking at other artists that we were interested in and finding out more about how they created and how their brain worked, basically. And so we pushed that out through a number of different channels, and it's just something that I think will now start to evolve, and we'll pull away from just doing clocks, where we want to have more art exhibitions and things like that, because it comes back to why we started it, and it just comes back to the people on the product. It's a nicer way to experience it. I think if we're always just buying and selling, it can get a bit sort of mundane. So we always want to focus on making sure we're connecting with artists and promoting artists, because we've got a great platform, and we think we may as well use our platform to promote other people as well as our own brand as well.
So the question is around your thoughts on and how mobile works for you, and the customers start on mobile, go to desktop. Do they bounce back and forth?
We definitely improved our mobile site probably 2 years ago, and we've noticed that there's obviously a lot more traffic being driven through mobile, and also a lot more sales. Last year I probably would have said there was a lot, and I guess still to this point there's a lot of people that research a lot on mobile and then buy on desktop, and we're still seeing that trend. But I think it is also that it moves with shifts, I guess, and it's different demographics, but we do definitely notice people researching, getting into work, buying on desktop. What would you be able to throw out a stat for how much we've improved?
I was just wondering whether there was you thought there's at some point a necessitation to move towards a native mobile app.
To an app?
The question is, would you move towards a native mobile app?
We'd absolutely think about it. There's some amazing apps out there that retailers, I think, the Iconic are killing it with their app at the moment. They've got like a million.
Tends to be a volume play, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
If people are buying from you regularly enough to come back.
Yeah, I think an app's a pretty big deal, and you need to make sure you have everything dialed. Definitely would think about it. Whether or not we're at the capacity right now to make that happen, we'd probably focus more on making sure our mobile site was as good as it could be.
One last question, Kate.
That's about user-generated content. Do you guys see a lot of user-generated content, and do you guys encourage it, or is it really organic?
Yeah, we do very much encourage it. I think social's a massive deal for us. We encourage it through, our own hashtags, and also through sharing other people's content. We did trial a stint working with influencers, and we still work with influencers, but again, you've really got to find the right influencers. We did try a couple where we thought, all right, we'll give this a bash, and we'll send out quite a lot of product to, these key people, and some of the stuff we got back, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to share that half-naked lady, stretched out over the bed. That's not really my brand identity. So, yeah, it's something that's really strong and really powerful, and we always encourage it. And if you're working with influencers, it's just really important to have I guess good relationships and making sure that they actually know about you and your brand and they represent the same things that you represent. We've never paid for any of that content because we feel like then you're not getting that authenticity. Is
influencers doubly hard for you because you're not just sending them a product like a drink or the coffee scrub? If you send them some sheets, they've got to style their bedroom. That's a skill set that I'm guessing lots of people just don't have, or they don't get your look and feel.
Yeah, I know. Frank Body is so clever, aren't they? It's just
such a simple.
Just chuck some coffee scrub on your face.
Get in the shower. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a harder thing to translate, but we've got a lot of different products now as well, and sometimes we do a lot of cross promotions with our other brands, which has been really good because we do sell a lot of other skincare products and things like that for gifting. So, yeah.
I think we'll bring it to a close. Thank you, ladies, for one, coming out, and two, giving so much. If everyone would like to give Lucy and Jo a round of applause.